Welcome back to Shorter Recaps. In today's video, we will be recapping a romance movie titled Suite Française, which is released in 2014. Before we begin, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this, and tell us what movies to recap in the comments. The film begins in the town of Bussy, Paris, in the year 1940, a week after Germany dropped its first bomb on Paris, France. There, a woman named Lucille lives with her mother-in-law, Angelier. Lucille's husband, Gaston, is away at war to serve in the French army. One day, Lucille accompanies her mother-in-law to collect rent from the farmers on her estate. Madame Angelier is one of the richest and most respected people in the town of Bussy. They arrive at Céline's house, one of their tenants. Céline's family says they cannot give a full payment as Céline's brothers have gone to war, so they lack the manpower to manage the farm. Angelier doesn't seem to care, as she gives a snide remark about Céline's silk stocking. While on their way to a farm to buy potatoes, they pass some reckless refugees' car. Lucille thinks they should evacuate from Bussy, but Angelier doesn't want to admit the French's defeat, and they continue on their way to buy potatoes at Benoit's farm. Lucille and Benoit's wife, Madeleine, have been friends for a long time and know each other well. Afterwards, on the way back to Bussy, they meet a group of refugees who are walking from Paris, causing a jam on the road. Lucille gets out of the car to check how long the traffic jam will last. Suddenly, Germany's planes fly by, bombing the trains and roads. Lucille and the other refugees take cover in the nearby fields. Lucille and Angelier return to Bussy, but the town is chaotic, with scared refugees all over the street. Suddenly, German planes fly by to distribute flyers containing Nazi propaganda. The French radio also broadcasts that German soldiers have occupied France. The next day, while the townsfolk are praying in the church, they hear the sound of a German armored vehicle. Their fears become a reality as German soldiers enter the city and take control of the French government. The citizens are ordered to surrender their weapons in the morning and prepare for the German soldiers to stay in their homes during the occupation. Lucille and Angelier go home to prepare their house, and Angelier tells Lucille not to talk to the German soldiers. A few moments later, a lieutenant named Bruno knocks on their door. Angelier looks at him scornfully, but Bruno politely asks for a room to work in before entering the house. Bruno asks for the key to the piano and desk in his room at dinner, which Angelier orders her maid to give to him. In the middle of the night, Lucille listens to Bruno playing a song on the piano which she never heard before. The next day, we see Benoit and Lucille lining up with the townsfolk to surrender their guns. Outside, Lucille meets Madeleine as they read the new rules from the Germans for the citizens of Bussy. Suddenly, Céline passes by and gives Lucille a sinister look. It turns out that Céline's family are moved to a grain barn by Angelier, and now their house is being rented by a refugee from Paris. Meanwhile, the Viscount of Bussy bribes a German major to not place the soldier named Bonnet in his house. Eventually, the major agrees to move Bonnet to stay in Benoit's house, which is the property of the Viscount. In the evening, Lucille again hears the music that is played by Bruno. She becomes more curious, but she cannot talk to him because Angelier has forbidden her. Sometime later, Lucille finally speaks to Bruno for the first time when she is writing a letter for her husband in the garden. They exchange a friendly but strained conversation, and she finally asks him about the song he always plays. It turns out that Bruno was a music composer before the war, and he also got married right before joining the army. In the middle of their conversation, Madame Angelier sees them and knocks on the window as a warning for Lucille. She immediately enters the house. As nobody is in the house, Lucille enters Bruno's room to look at his music sheets. Suddenly, Bruno comes in and asks what she was doing in his room. She is then told to read the reports submitted by her neighbors about each other. Lucille says they're just gossip, but it's Bruno's job is to read them and report to his major. At dinner, Angelier accuses Lucille of marrying Gaston just for money, as she thinks Lucille is having an affair with Bruno. After Lucille denies it, Angelier informs her that Gaston's regiment has been put in a German army camp, making Lucille restless to hear the news. Later, Bruno gives a gift box to Lucille containing a piece of the music sheet he's been writing. Meanwhile, at Benoit's house, Bonnet starts acting up and harassing Madeleine. Of course, Benoit is upset, but he plans to pay him back. When Bonnet is swimming in the lake with the other soldiers, Benoit comes over with a gun that he hid from the German army. He then hides their clothes and points the gun at Bonnet, but refrains from shooting. Instead, he comes to Lucille's house to ask her for help. He wants Bruno to tell Bonnet to stop bothering his wife. Bruno emphatically said he will try, even though they are of the same rank. Bruno, who has an interest in Lucille, will help Benoit as long as he and Lucille can have a drink together and get along. Finally, Lucille and Bruno sit together, sipping wine and talking about his background. The two of them get closer and dance even though it's still awkward for them. Suddenly, her maid comes in and tells her that Angelier has come home. The pair run into the garden and hide there. Bruno thanks her for talking and spending time with him, and he sneaks back to his room. The next day, as Lucille is about to go collect the rent, she sees Celine making love to a German soldier. Celine, who sees her, immediately chases after her and tells her that she loves the soldier as he's better than the men in town. To prove it, she tells Lucille to read the townsfolk's confessions about Gaston. Lucille immediately goes home and checks on the complaint letters on Bruno's desk, finding a very surprising fact. Meanwhile, Bruno is attending a gathering with the other soldiers. He confronts Bonnet about seducing Madeleine, but Bonnet thinks that Bruno is getting soft on the townsfolk. When he goes home, Bruno meets Lucy in his room, who is angry at him for keeping the secret about Gaston. She also lashes out at Angelier for hiding that her son had an affair and even a child with someone else. Feeling upset, Bruno decides to burn all the confession letters and finds Lucille trying to read the ashes. He plays a song to cheer her up, and she expresses her disappointment for marrying Gaston, whom she only had met twice. Bruno tries to kiss her, but she says it's not possible. Lucille returns to her room and is summoned by Angelier to meet Madame Perrin, who comes to ask Lucille to help her retrieve the items from her house that is now occupied by German soldiers. Lucille goes to her house accompanied by Bruno, and when he sees the awful state of the house, he gets mad and orders his underlings to clean up the mess. Lucille immediately leaves the house, disappointed with the behavior of the soldiers. Bruno chases after her while insisting that he is not like the other soldiers before kissing her. Lucille pushes him away and walks back to the house. Afterwards, Lucille and Bruno walk back to town with Madame Perrin's belongings. Bruno apologizes for the soldiers' behavior as the townsfolk looks at Lucille sinisterly. Meanwhile, Madame Perrin congratulates her for standing up to the Germans. She and Bruno go home and she kisses him. As they're almost making love, suddenly Angelier comes home, but luckily she doesn't notice them. Lucille plans for them to have a date and make love on Thursday, as Angelier will be away for the whole day. On the other hand, Benoit is caught stealing the Viscount's chicken by the Viscountess. When confronted, he says he's not the only one to steal from them, as the farmers think the Viscount is a traitor. Hearing this, the Viscount reports that Benoit still has a gun to the German major. The next morning, German soldiers come to Benoit's house to arrest him. Benoit immediately flees to the warehouse to get his rifle, but it turns out that Bonnet has taken it. The two of them fight until Lieutenant Bonnet is shot dead. Benoit then flees on his motorbike as the soldiers shoot at him. Lucille, who is waiting for Bruno's arrival, is startled by a knock on the door, which turns out to be Madeleine asking her to help hide Benoit. Lucille is hesitant, and Madeleine finally finds out that she has a special relationship with Bruno. Madeleine tells her that Bruno won't be coming home as he's leading the search for Benoit, then leaves in disappointment and anger. Lucille feels like her relationship with Bruno is wrong, so she decides to go to the forest to help Benoit. She finds Benoit and tells him to change his clothes before taking him to her house. The news of Lieutenant Bonnet's death at the hands of Benoit causes an uproar for the Germans. The Viscount reads out the rules in the town center that whoever hides or helps Benoit will be executed in front of the firing squad. After that, the Major says to the Viscount that if Benoit is not found within 48 hours, then the Viscount will be executed in front of the firing squad. The search is continued. All residents are inspected. On the other hand, Benoit, who is at Lucille's house, is hidden in a secret room by Angelier. Not long after, German soldiers come to inspect the house. Bruno apologizes to Lucille that he will not be able to return to this house again, and for bailing on their date. One of his men calls out to Bruno because he has found something in the closet. Lucille and Angelier are nervous about getting caught, but then Bruno only asks to borrow Angelier's linens for Bonnet's funeral. Meanwhile, the 48 hours set by the Germans has ended. The Viscount is taken to the town center to be shot by the firing squad, who are led by Bruno. He gives the signal to the firing squad and the Viscount is executed in front of the citizens. Lucille, who hears gunshots from her house, convinces herself that the Germans are their enemy, including Bruno. Benoit says that he will not hide until the war is over. He plans to go to Paris to help start a rebellion. Lucille volunteers to take Benoit to Paris in their car. She needs a travel pass, so she goes to the place where the German soldiers gathered, and on the way she is insulted as a German's prostitute. As she arrives to the Germans' party, she asks Bruno for a travel pass to buy medicine in Paris. Bruno tells her that during the inspection yesterday, his men found tobacco that doesn't belong to him. They thought that Lucille and Angelier is hiding someone, but Bruno protected them by saying that the tobacco is a gift from his wife. Bruno then gives her the travel pass and says goodbye to Lucille, saying they'll meet again after the war. The next morning, Bruno's regiment is preparing to leave the town. Bruno leaves his song in his room, entitled Suite Française. Lucille reads every note on it and recalls Bruno playing every night with tears in her eyes. Lucille finally prepares to head to Paris with Benoit after Angelier gives her some money and a gun for protection. Meanwhile, it turns out that Bruno's underling had put a note on Lucille's travel pass for the soldiers to check her car, as he thinks she's hiding something. At the checkpoint, Lucille is stopped by the guards to check her car. While opening the trunk, Benoit shoots the soldiers and he also gets shot on his shoulder. Suddenly, Bruno comes and Lucille immediately points her gun at him, afraid he might catch them. Instead, he helps Lucille carry Benoit to the car. Lucille immediately drives away, leaving Bruno there. She then narrates that she found out Bruno had died during the war or has simply disappeared as she never met him again, although his song still takes her memories back to him. That is all for today's recap. Thanks for watching, and see you on our next video.